Now, you've probably seen this conversation come up time and time again in the recent weeks as people who have never worked or only rarely worked some sort of 9 to 5 or traditional job are weighing in on if 9 to 5 is harder than streaming or if streaming is harder than a 9 to 5. Well, listen, I want to give you the perspective of somebody who's doing both of them and tell the people who are participating in this conversation who don't have that perspective to shut the hell up. With so many different ways that are paraded on the internet with making money, people are wondering, should I continue to do a 9 to 5 or should I go one of these untraditional routes? They look at the perceived freedom, the flexibility, the money that you could potentially make, and hell, honestly, the clout that you get from saying, hey, I do something non-traditional, and especially because there's such a variety of ways that people can get into the streaming game. I mean, in the recent time, we've seen that streaming has transformed from the days of people playing video games or just chatting. IRL streaming is becoming really big, being half naked on camera while streaming. A lot of people are saying to themselves, well, if they can do it, why can't I? Especially if it doesn't add any value like Myron thinks.
And that shit's harder than being a doctor, nigga. And what all them doctors do is prescribe fucking medications, bro. But I went to the doctor for my fucking shoulder. All she tried to do was give me fucking medication. How do I fix my shoulder? If you don't know, point me in the direction to the nigga that would know. You want Tylenol? No. How do I fix my shoulder? Nigga, send me to an MRI. Why am I doing your job? God damn it, man. That shit can't be that hard, bro.
Agent. I don't see how we can say somebody like a doctor who is doing years of research, 8 years of schooling, countless hours on sick patients, helping them, curing them, or pointing them in the right direction to some sort of treatment plan is some sort of easy thing to do. Now, I get it. I don't want to take this away from agent or anybody's individualistic experience because sometimes it doesn't feel like the right treatment plan. And ultimately, you come up with your own treatment plan that may work better than what the doctor may have prescribed you. Hey, I'm a proponent of you know your body better than anybody else. But none of that negates the fact that the doctor's job is hard. Now, I don't want to dig too deep on agent's individualistic situation. We want to tackle the real meat and potatoes. Is streaming harder than a 9 to 5? No. I think people involved in this conversation have their own sort of bias. So I think that's why my perspective is just a little bit different as somebody who is actively working a 9 to 5 and somebody who also streams / makes content at the same time. And trust me when I say this, if you scan the majority of Twitch, Kick, Rumble, any streaming platform, a lot of the content is low lift. Think about it. Reactionary content isn't the hardest thing in the world. Having somebody else create the content for you to give your simplistic opinion on, I don't see anything difficult about that. Playing video games on streams, I don't see anything difficult about that. Or hell, just doing IRL streams where you're walking around living your day-to-day life. I don't see anything hard about that. Now, when we talk about this 1% of streamers who are actually putting in 8 to 15 hours a day, who are doing these extra extravagant streams like a Kai Cenat, like a iShowSpeed, where they are mixing in IRL elements, where they are mixing in scripted out content into their streams, or just living a zany, wacky life that'll have them traveling for hours on end, then yes, I could say that streaming can be extremely hard. And I won't take that away from them. But we've got to think about that. How many streamers actually fit into that category? Another portion of this conversation that people don't really understand is they don't even know what all the 9 to 5s are, but we have a pretty good grasp of what all the potential streams are.
You have easy jobs. What would you consider an easy job? Cashier. Okay, let's say cashier. Then you have a hard job. What's a hard job? I think off the top of my head, like a Secret Service agent.
See, this is something that I've learned since I've graduated college and have stepped out into the real world. A lot of people don't know about any jobs that aren't front-facing. And what I mean by that is the things that get the world running that are done behind the scenes that most people don't know about. Do you think that Amazon packages just go from facility to facility? No. There are logistics centers that are open 24 hours a day that people work 14 or 12 or 10-hour shifts on a daily basis. But you don't see stuff like that. You're only going to see stuff when you go into the stores, buy the product, and deal with the cashier. But that's why you think the jobs are easy. Right now, I'm in a hotel room because I'm working 14-hour shifts in a distribution center, and I can tell you for a fact, lifting those boxes is not easy. And I ultimately think that there are different struggles within all these jobs that most people can't even contextualize because they really can't see or understand these jobs. Another reason is that they're just too young. Blackboy Max put out a tweet that was talking about streaming being so much harder than all these other jobs, and thought to myself two things. One, what would Max classify as a regular job? And two, Max is 21 years old. That would be somebody who is just about getting ready to get up out of college, right? So the only jobs that person would be qualified for would be what people would consider easy jobs, even though those were laborious and tedious and all those things. But they never get to the level of getting into corporate life or working at distribution centers in a big meaningful way, being up the corporate ladder or these different scales, so they don't know the complexities that those jobs have. So while they may have the full spectrum of what a streamer is, they've been at the bottom, they work to the middle, and now they're at the top, they don't know what the spectrum is for somebody that's working a job. job.
Streaming is a harder job than a regular 9 to 5. Say a streamer has a bad day on stream, right? They can just end their stream. But if you're in retail and customer service, we can't walk away from the customer. I see streamers who do the most simplest thing and get 200 viewers, and I'm not gonna say that's like working hard. If you're like Asmongold, you like plan out your streams heavily, then okay, yeah, maybe it's a little more taxing.
If they are really getting just as many views as somebody that's doing educated or more difficult content, that means that they have something different to offer than just intelligence. Maybe it's charisma. Put Charlie next to Ludwig. They're both really smart, but Charlie tends to lean more into informative content. Ludwig will sit and watch TikToks and get the same amount of viewers. Does that make that one more important or harder? No.
A big portion in the conversation about is streaming harder than a 9 to 5 is the whole concept that you have to be charismatic, energetic, and have that je ne sais quoi in order to attract viewers to you. And I know that they don't know this, but this also exists in the world of 9 to 5s. In order for you to get some sort of employment or level up on the scale as to where you are in your life career-wise, you have to be charismatic. You have to put on your show and put on a face and entertain people on a daily basis, or you'll fall out of grace in their favor. It's more than just your technical abilities or skills. Sure, I might be the best coder in the world, but I'm here to tell you that the people that are at the top of these totem poles aren't necessarily the best. Your soft skills go a long way. Elements that are in play for both streaming and 9 to 5s aren't talked about because people want to side on their argument to make it seem like their life is just so much harder.
Content creation is harder than your 9 to 5. You really don't know how much hard work goes into creating multiple videos a day. Being constantly creative with new video ideas, trying to make footage look good, getting new shots, taking many takes over and over, it can get to be a lot. So yeah, I'm tired.
Now don't get me wrong, I do get tired from creating content. The multiple takes kill me sometimes, and the fact that I have to do stuff that sometimes I don't have the energy to do because I was doing something else later in the day is very prevalent in this industry. But that also exists in the life of a 9 to 5. If we're talking about people that make big, expansive pieces of work or stuff that does take in real life action that is vigorous and very draining on you, then for sure, I think that I would classify that as harder than a lot of 9 to 5s. But sometimes that only makes up some of what they do. I think when Kai does IRL stuff, yeah, that's definitely harder than a 9 to 5. But when he's reacting to somebody's video, I can't think that that's harder than being like a middle school teacher. I think job volatility is something that the entertainment industry has always suffered with, especially when you're at the top of your game. You get hit with these golden handcuffs, whether it be from the likes, the views, the clicks, or from the money that you're actually making. And then once that fall off comes, you don't know what to do, so you start pivoting left, right, and sideways, as opposed to people that are like police officers who could have as many open cases as they want and nothing happened to them due to like qualified immunity. Yeah, there's definitely a case that says job security and job volatility is much crazier and much lower for the security part when it comes to the content creation side than it is for the 9 to 5 side.
It's harder than a regular job. Not saying that this is easy, but it's not easier than a nigga having to wake up on somebody else's schedule. I'm not gonna lie, I used to think that it was harder than having a job. I used to. A hard worker is a hard worker. So if you're a hard worker as a streamer, I do think it's equivalent to you being a hard worker at a job. You put in the hours, you create the content, you pay for the content, you sit there, you do your thing, but not easier than a regular job.
Streaming harder than a real job? Bro, what? Before I was a streamer, I saw a YouTuber say like, man, y'all just don't understand. This is more difficult than just normal 9 to 5. Well, guess what, chat? I am in the position and I can sit here and tell you it's not even close to as hard as a real job. I ain't about to sit here and tell y'all like, oh man, I'll be working hard. Bro, I don't! Dude, I sit here and stream every day. You know what I get to do for a living, bro? I get to hang out with my people 4 hours a day, bro. I wake up at like 2 p.m. every day, get up, don't do nothing all day, and I sit here and stream, bro.
Streaming is not harder than a 9 to 5. Streaming is a hobby that you looked up and you made it your career. Making content is a hobby, something you do on your fucking free time. Never compare having to get up and go to work when somebody else say so, get off work when somebody else say so. You gotta ask somebody else if you can relax. I be dead ass super grateful. I be telling y'all I appreciate y'all a lot, what real fucking life is.
I appreciate someone like Duke's perspective in this conversation because we know from his military background that he at least has some wherewithal or understanding as to what it takes to work what a lot of people would consider a real job. And as much as he talked about how easy the job may have been in the military, he might have been sitting behind a desk, it's the fact that you are still under someone's control as opposed to when you are streaming or creating content. There is specifically a certain level where if you do not post, then you have a level of freedom that cannot come from having a 9-to-5 job. And I'm not going to say that some 9-to-5 jobs don't come with some level of freedom, some level of job security, some level of flexibility, but there is a totally different level between doing that and having to put in your hours, submit your time, call somebody, and not cutting your camera on because you just don't feel like it for the next 3 days. If I didn't show up for 3 days, I wouldn't have a job, period.
I cannot believe working a 9-to-5 is real life. The task that I was just asked to do, I don't even want to explain it because I'm embarrassed to say that this is what I do for a living. But I'm going to tell you for a laugh, you know the abbreviated like months, like OCT, I'm having to write out October and make that standard across a lot of fucking verbiage. Like, wow, this is how we're supposed to be successful in life? By working for someone else's success, first of all, and then doing stupid ass tasks that make me feel like a literal piece of shit because how am I having an impact in the world? No one knows that I'm doing this. I'm sitting behind my computer typing. I'm doing absolutely nothing to help others.
And trust me, I think that there are elements of 9-to-5 work that are what we would consider easy. But I think what's troubling to me is the fact that how easy can get rewarded in the content creation sphere versus how easy is looked at in the 9-to-5 sphere. I think a lot of people see easy work and say that they could do something that's much harder or much more rewarding and then reap the benefits from it. But where I think that they turn and get nasty is the fact that they take that and then turn it on its head and shit on the regular 9-to-5 working class. And it's only because they crave the things that the entrepreneurship lifestyle has to offer, supposedly, but they don't really realize the grind that actually comes into the entrepreneur lifestyle.
What if your husband or whoever didn't aspire to be a boss and they said, I like my $80,000 a year job or $50,000 a year job, like I get fulfillment for this. I love what I do every day. I come home happy. I go to work happy. I want to go to work. What's the problem with that? He gotta want to be a boss?
I think me personally, for my husband, I wouldn't want a husband that way. But that's just me.
So you don't want a happy person. You would rather him want to be a boss and deal with a bunch of whatever that he don't even want to deal with than to love his job and go to work and say, I love my job.
But that's what I would like. That's what I'm attracted to. That's what I want to see in a man.
This story is about two people seeing two different perspectives and have a limiting view on both of them. Sure, it sounds cool to have a boss, husband that's a CEO, etc., etc. Until you get into that life where he's missing out on calls, birthdays, celebrations, anniversaries, and nights in your bed because he's doing boss-like things. And sure, streaming may seem tiresome and difficult and unfulfilling until you're in somebody's warehouse lifting boxes for the past 15 hours and not getting shit done creatively, and honestly, your brain is rotting from the inside out. I'm speaking from personal experience. I'd like to say I don't know why these people are craving the entrepreneurship lifestyle, but it's ultimately because it's been portrayed as this most fabulous thing on the internet. But these are from people who don't have any experience in it and don't know how damning it can be.
Somehow society has told us that working a 9-to-5 is the worst thing that you can do, which is ridiculous. The odds are you will have to work a 9-to-5 to support yourself, and that's okay. That doesn't make you a failure. That doesn't mean your life will be miserable. That doesn't mean you'll never be able to be rich one day. Learning in industry is the best way to actually eventually be able to start a company.
Really, the route for entrepreneurship is truly not for everyone. You don't make a lot of money in the beginning. You sacrifice crazy, make people mad at you because you can't be at these events or these functions. You're gonna miss out on a lot of good times, family times, etc., etc. Until that one day, hopefully you get lucky, strike gold, and then you've made it to this promised land where you are making good, solid money on content creation. And everybody's number for good, solid money is totally different, so I don't want to put a number on that. But then what people don't realize is that you have to maintain that for a lot of years in your life that most people don't get to see. We often talk about people who don't use their degrees when they go to college and get a job, but we never talk about the content creators who made it big, were only lasting for a couple years, and then have fallen off a cliff. Those people have money problems as well, even though they got a lot of money in this content creation game. Look at Boogie. Boogie was one of the biggest content creators on the platform, and all of that stuff went up and went straight down to the toilet.
Since 2018, Boogie2988's career has been in a YouTube death spiral. The main reason is his Mr. Rogers mask slipping, revealing his true persona of an awful, manipulative person. October 2022 was when Boogie entered financial hell. Boogie uploaded a video stating how he had become broke due to losing all his money in the crypto market market, e-begging his audience for donations due to his reckless decisions.
And even content creators like Gento from the 2K days. A lot of great content, a lot of great money, and now he's doing rap verses in a U-Haul trailer. The instability of entrepreneurship is not all it's cracked up to be. And that's something that people don't talk about. No, I don't think it necessarily makes it harder because everything comes with its challenges. I just ultimately think that it's something that shouldn't be romanticized. Because there are a lot of people out there who go into the entrepreneurship lane and then end up back at a 9-to-5 anyway.
I just started a job on the 1st of March, okay? Every morning, they come in my office and be like, whew, you still here? And I be like, girl, where I'm going? Like, this is my second week. Like, you can't quit. And they were like, we just don't know why you here. Baby, because it's a job and we got bills. And sometimes you just gotta do what you gotta do. Yep, I have my master's in mental health counseling. I have my master's in management. And yet and still I am making nowhere near what I should be making. And sometimes, you know, you may have to just take something to stay afloat. I have no problem jumping back into the work field and working a 9-to-5.
Interestingly enough, I think Phantom put probably the best perspective on this whole conversation, period, point blank.
Streaming is hard. Streaming can be hard. Streaming can also be easy. It depends the type of streamer you are. Can jobs be hard? Facts. But can jobs also be easy? Facts. You can have an easy job. You literally set the difficulty on this shit.
Look, I'm 28 years old, and I know that makes me unk status, but I've probably had upwards of 15 jobs in my lifetime. Some of them were easier than the other ones, some of them were harder than the other ones, and some of them came with the benefits and rewards of working harder, some of them didn't, and that's just what the job called for. Ultimately, they all had their own mental stress and their mental anguish that came with them. And only up until recently did I find an outlet which was content creation, which I think, like a lot of people said in this video, it's more of a hobby that people got lucky into and decided this is gonna be the thing that makes my career. No, I don't think it's easy. Cutting on this camera, to do this video, a podcast, the interview, etc., there's nothing to it but to do it, to be honest with you. But right now, as I sit in this chair, coming off of a 14-hour shift in a warehouse where I was having to move heavy automotive parts around a warehouse all day, I can guarantee you that streaming is not harder than a 9-to-5.